In my career, I have conducted tens of thousands of interviews. I've interviewed people as a corporate recruiter. I've interviewed people as a headhunter. And you want to know a big secret? Every single recruiter you're talking to is looking for the same exact things. And the same exact prep can help you succeed in every single one of those interviews. In today's video, I'm going to show you what you need to do so that you succeed in every single first round phone interview you have for the rest of your life. Let's go. My name is Ben White with Ben Talks Talent. I've got 11 years experience in hiring, recruiting, interviewing, team building, and I am passionate about using my experience to help you become the best candidate possible so you can nail your next interview. In today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a comprehensive prep guide. Everything that you need to do to be successful in a first round interview. So you've applied to a job, a recruiter reaches out to you, and you need to be successful in that to get to the next step. This is everything you need to do in preparation for that interview so that you'll succeed. Before we get into it, do me a favor, take 3 seconds and hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. That way you never miss one of my videos. I try about 3 or 4 of these a week. And if you like this video, share it with your friends and hit that like button. It is motivation for me to continue making these videos. So, you've been reached out to, right? So you've applied to a job online, maybe on Indeed, maybe on the website of a company, and a recruiter sends you an email saying, hey Ben, good news, I'd like to schedule an interview. When are you available? You give them a time. What happens next? What do you need to do? Well, let's start at the top. The first thing I want you to do is print out the job description. So the job ad that you applied for, print that out, and I want you to take a close look at the qualifications. And I want you to make sure that on every single one of those bullets, I want you to write down next to it how your experience compares and contrasts. So if they say, look, 5 years of sales experience, and you have 8 years of experience in sales, write down next to that, 8 years experience in sales in automotive and whatever industries you've been in. That way, if they ask you, okay, Ben, one of the things that we're requiring is blank. Do you have that? You can say, yes, I've got that. But the big point of this exercise is I want you to familiarize yourself with all the must-haves and all the nice-haves in the job description and how your experience lines up, and be prepared to talk to them. The next thing I want you to do is I actually want you to use your printer again, and I want you to print out your resume. This is another helpful exercise, but I feel like it's really important for preparation. At every single job you've had, what I want you to do is I want you to think about the most significant achievement you had at every single one of those roles. Then I want you to write it down on your resume on the side. What was the biggest thing you did in that role? Whatever it is, maybe if you're in sales, it was the biggest sales, or it was an important client that you brought in. I want you to talk about who that was, when you did it, how long it took you to do that, what were the things that happened along the process. Basically, this is an exercise where if they were to ask you, what was this most significant career achievement you had at this stop, you're prepared to speak to it. Oftentimes, people are not ready to answer interview questions, and when they get put on the spot, they just kind of panic and they give an example that doesn't really put them in the best light. By going through this exercise and writing down your most significant career achievement at every single one of your stops, you're going to be prepared to talk to some of the important things you've done along the way in your career, and it's going to make you more prepared to speak to why you're a good fit for the role. Every time I have interviewed someone when I worked as a corporate recruiter, one of the first things I would always do besides looking at their resume is I would actually go to their LinkedIn profile, and I'd kind of familiarize myself with that as well, just to make sure that I was ready to talk to them. But I could tell you, most of the time, they hadn't gone to my profile. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to look at the person that you're going to be interviewing with and then go to their LinkedIn profile. Ben, why would I do this? The reason you want to do this is you want to see, is this their first role at the company? Have they been promoted? Are they a new employee? Are they a long tenured employee? What was their degree in? Do you guys share an alma mater? Did you go to the same school? There's a lot of things that you can glean from looking at somebody's LinkedIn profile. But if you never do it, then you won't arm yourself with that information. So I would recommend whenever you're interviewing, do your due diligence. Go to their profile, see what you have. If you can identify a commonality and it's something you can bring up and help you establish rapport in an interview, you should absolutely do it. It's a no-brainer. You should never go into an interview without knowing what is going on with a company, right? If you're gonna be interviewing with them, you wanna know what is going on. Are they in the news? Have they had any big acquisitions? Are there any prevalent news stories that are going on right now? So what I want you to do is go to Google, and then I want you to type the company name in the scroll bar, and then hit enter and then go down and hit the news button. When you do that, a whole bunch of articles should come up. If it's a well-known company, if it's a big company, even smaller companies, if you hit news, things should come up. But you want to make sure that you're doing just at least the cursory research. You want to know about the company, you want to know what they do, go to their website, go to the About Me section, go to their values. You should find anything cultural or value that matters to them, but then also go to Google, go to news, find out what is going on, see what the articles are being written by them, were they in the news, are there any acquisitions, find out the name of their CEO and write that down. It's a funny Amazon interview question. I did a whole deep dive into the questions Amazon asks. I'll actually link it in the bio. I'll link it in the description box below. But one of the things they ask is, do you know the name of our CEO? So little things like that. You just want to make sure you're prepared. And the two things you need to do when it comes to knowledge of the company is you need to go to Google News and read about them, or Yahoo News if you prefer. And then you need to go to their website. You need to familiarize yourself with what it is they do. If they make a product, what are their products? What are the markets they serve? And what is their culture and values? You could usually find that on the About Us section. So make sure you're prepared. Just, you never want to go into it and have them ask you the interview question, what do you know about us? Or what do you know about this company? And you not have an answer. Have an answer to that question. Now, I just shared one of them, and that's what do you know about us? But outside of that interview question, there's about 5 or 6 interview questions that you can expect to get every single time you have a first round interview. So if you know what those questions are, you should probably be prepared to speak to them. So I'm gonna give you about 6 questions, and what you need to do is practice answering all of them. It should never be a surprise to you that you're asked one of these interview questions. You know they're coming, be ready. Now, the first interview question I need you to be prepared for to answer is, why are you interested in this position? Okay, so this is an easy one. You always wanna be enthused about one of 2 things. You need to be enthused about something specific in the job description. So something that they put in there that you say, you know what, in your job description, you said you're gonna be really hands-on with customers in some of my past roles. That's been my favorite component of the job. So the opportunity to do more of that is really exciting to me. And that's kind of what caused me to be interested in this role. Or you can talk about the company. You can say, I've always admired this company. I grew up in this area, and this company has always been kind of a well-established company. I've had, people I've known who have been employees there. They've always spoken well of it. So when I saw that you had this position open, just knowing kind of the respect that I have for your organization, it kind of motivated me to pursue it a little bit further. And then best way to answer it, you talk about both. And then I took a look at the job description, and there was a lot of the pieces of what this person's gonna be doing on a day-to-day basis that really resonated with me. That's how you answer this question. The next question that you're probably gonna get is, why are you looking? And the answer is, you're not looking. Don't say it like that, but that's basically the angle you wanna approach it. So whenever I'm asked this interview question, I actually go, I'm actually not looking. I'm pretty happy in my current job. However, I happen to get a notification from Indeed because I have it set up just to see what's going on in the industry. And I noticed that you guys are hiring. I've always respected your company. So when I saw this position working for your organization, I decided to take a look at it. I read through the job description, and it was really interesting. I found a lot of the pieces of this job to be things that I'd like to be doing more of in my career. So while I'm not looking, this intrigued me to a point that I felt like it made sense to explore it further. Now, you've done a few things here. One, you've retained leverage. You're letting them know, I'm happy. I don't need to leave, but you're also letting them know I have a high esteem and high respect for your organization, and that's what's motivated me. It's never about what you're running from, it's about what you're running to. And by answering it this way, you accomplish that. The next question or set of questions is, what do you like best or what do you like least about your current job? One of the things that's important here is to make sure that it aligns with the job description. So we talked about this earlier, but if it's what do you like best about your current job, it should be something that you're gonna have in this new job, right? If you're saying, I really like my boss or my team, well, that's nice, but you don't have those here, right? It's far better if you could say, what I really like best about my job is doing A, B, and C. However, I don't get to do it as much as I'd like. It's actually one of the things that intrigued me about this job. When I read the job description, it seems like that's a big component of it. So that's probably what I like most about my current job. And it's part of the reason why I'm so excited to be interviewing for this job. Now, if it's what do you like least, you want it to be something that you're not getting. And I've done this question, so if you want to look at my interview question playlist, you'll see this question here in greater depth. But basically, it's something you don't get to do enough of, and you get to do more of it in this job. That's how you answer that question. The next set of questions that you might get is, what is your greatest strength, or what is your greatest weakness? Now, if you look at my playlist, you'll see that I answered these in greater depth again. But greatest strength, it should be something that, again, is something you're going to have to do in this new role. It's something you're passionate and excited about. You want to talk about something that you will literally have to do on a weekly basis in the role you're interviewing for, and talk about it with a lot of passion, excitement, and a lot of expertise if you can. Now, what is your greatest weakness? This is a funny one. You want it to be something real, so you're coming off as authentic, but not something that makes you look like a bad fit for the job, not something that's a red flag. Again, I would recommend going to my other video. Go to my playlist. I think it's the first video on the interview question series playlist. Watch that video. I give you 7 different ways to answer it. The next question is, what are you looking for salary-wise? And the way I always answer this as a candidate, I go, to me, salary isn't the most important thing. I'm looking for the next step in my career, for an employer where I can do the type of work that motivates me and I can be there for a long time. So I'm open to a fair offer commensurate with my level of experience. What is the range for this role? And I try to turn it around on them. If they don't fall into that and they say, we've got a range depending on experience, what is it you're looking for? So if they turn it back on you, I try to always have them say the number first so you have that information. But if they turn it back on you, don't give them a range. If you say 80 to 100 and you end up being the candidate, the offer is going to come in at 80. Pick the number you need, say the number. Don't give them a range, because if you give them a range, they're never going to come in at the top. Give them that number. If you want a greater dive into this, I think right now it's my most popular video. I'll link it in the description box, but I actually do a deep dive into salary negotiation. Watch that video. The last question you might need to know, or you will likely need to know for every single first round interview you do for the rest of your life, is how to answer the question, tell me about yourself. Whenever someone asks me this interview question, the first thing I say to them is, where would you like me to start? Because if they want you to talk about your career and you're like, well, I grew up on the East Coast, they're going to be like, well, what are you doing? And if they actually want to know about you as a person, but you start, I graduated from UWM, they're going to be like, whoa, well, what about you? So by asking them, where would you like me to start? It kind of gives you a prompt as to what they're interested in, and then go through that. And I always tell people, this isn't a 10-minute question answer. You want to answer it briefly. So go through, hit them with bullet points, and move through your career quickly. Try to be thorough as possible, but be efficient in talking about this. The next thing you need to do as a candidate is you need to bring great interview questions to ask them. I always say that you want to have a bare minimum of 5 questions to ask every single person who interviews you. If they say, Ben, do you have any interview questions? And you say no, it gives them 2 things. It's either 1, you didn't prepare, not a good look. 2, you're not really interested. Also not a good look. Or you didn't prepare and you're not interested, so you don't want that. So always bring great interview questions. I'm going to give you 5 that I really like. The first interview question I want you to ask is, why is the role open? This is a great interview question. You should never leave an interview without asking this question. Why? Well, for a few things. The first thing you're going to find out here is their urgency. If someone quit, guess what? They are urgent. That means someone was doing this job. They are no longer doing this job. Who's doing it? Maybe the boss, maybe the person interviewing you, maybe the hiring manager. Who knows? Either way, when they say someone has left, you want to know that. If someone was fired, then you want to ask them what happened, where did this person fall short, etc. You want to know if perhaps that person was fired because 1, they were incompetent, or 2, there were unrealistic expectations for this role. The third thing is they might say it's a newly created role, in which case it's exciting, or they might not have the type of urgency that you're looking for if you're in a hurry. The last option, the previous person was promoted. That's probably about the best answer you can get. The next question you should ask is about making sure you're setting yourself up for success. What does this person need to accomplish in the first year in order for it to be viewed as a success? This is all about finding out if they have realistic expectations. If they gave you an incredibly challenging task and that's the only thing that makes it a success, that's a problem. If they give you a handful of small things that you think you can accomplish, great. It's all about realizing whether or not they have realistic expectations and getting a handle on what you need to do in order to make the first 365 days for you a success. The next thing I like to ask is a tough question. They're probably not expecting it, but it's a great one. What is the most challenging part of this role? And then shut up, let them talk. Don't ask anything else, just be quiet and let them answer. I find it really intriguing, but you're gonna find out some great information about the role. I literally will never leave an interview without asking this question. Another great question, if you care about culture, is how would you describe the culture of this organization? Again, ask the question and shut up. Hear what they say. I think it's really interesting. If someone is not prepared to answer it, culture probably isn't a big deal in the company. But if immediately they've got information to give you, ideas to share, things they do to perpetuate the culture, then you know it's a big deal. So I always ask this, to me, culture is important. It impacts a lot of the people and the decisions made. So I always want to ask, if it matters to you, I'd ask it too. The last thing I like to ask of the 5 questions I'm going to give you is kind of a personal one. And I always ask the person, what is your favorite thing about working at this organization? If the person struggles, that's a bad sign. But if they immediately give you something really cool, that's obviously a good sign. I find that asking this question is going to give you a lot more than just looking on the website and looking at culture. Whatever this person says to you, you can take it as kind of a truth. And I think it's a valuable question to ask and a valuable answer to get as someone who is in the very beginning stages with a new company. Now, once you have done this, once you have gone through the very beginning, you've talked to them, you've answered their interview questions, and then you've asked your questions. The next thing I want you to do as you're concluding here is I want you to close the interview. You should close the interview every single time. And the way I like to close it in the first round is I like to ask them, hey, first and foremost, I want to thank you for your time. This has been incredibly valuable to me. I feel like I've learned a lot about the organization, and I appreciate your questions and your answers here. I've got one more question. Do you have any questions or concerns about my ability to do the job? There it is. That's the closing question. And if they go, no, you seem like a great candidate, then you affirm your interest. Great. Then I'm very interested in moving on to the next role. And if they say, actually, Ben, I do have a little bit of concerns, I'm concerned about this, then you rebuttal that. If they go, Ben, we don't think you have as much management experience as we'd like to see, then you go, you know what, thank you. I appreciate you being candid with me here and sharing that. I would like to, however, highlight that in this job, I did ABC. And it gives you an opportunity you otherwise would not have to counter their concern. So make sure you do that and close every single time you have a first round interview. Now, once you've closed and you said, great, then I am very interested in moving on to the next step, you need to secure timeline. You go, so what are the next steps? What does the process look like from here? And they'll go, okay, well, the next step is you'll talk to the hiring manager, or you'll talk to a panel interview with the hiring manager and a few people on their team. And you go, okay, excellent, that sounds great. When can I expect that? And at what point should I follow up if I don't hear from you? And that way you're not just sitting out there wondering, when do we move on? So many people have a problem in an interview because they interview, they think it went well, and then they go, I don't know when the next thing is happening. But if you ask about the timeline and they go, okay, well, we should be setting that up for next week. And you go, okay, great. If I don't hear from you from next week, Thursday, do you mind if I send you an email just kind of following up on the process? That's a great way to make sure you're not just sitting out there wondering what is going on. So always after closing, secure the timeline and make sure they're comfortable with your follow-up. The last thing you want to do, so you've set the follow-up, you know what's going on, you've gotten off the interview, you feel good, you're patting yourself on the back. The next thing you want to do is you want to send them a thank you note. Some people will tell you thank you notes aren't necessary. And they're wrong. They're not wrong, but here's the way I view thank you notes. If 50% of the people really value them and care about them, and 50% of the people who are going to interview you don't care at all, wouldn't you rather just be safe and send a thank you note? So send a thank you note. I always say send a thank you note later that day. Don't do it the next day or 2 days after. They're still forming their impression of you day one, so send it like 3 or 4 hours later. And here's the key. If you send a generic thank you note, that really doesn't do much for people. It's polite, but it doesn't do a lot. When you asked that interview question earlier, what is your favorite part about working at the company? Take something that they gave you in that answer and weave that into your thank you note. It shows you were paying attention. It shows that you valued what they shared with you. It shows you value the conversation, and it just gives a little bit more meaning to it. So if you do that, it's going to make your thank you note so much more powerful. And there you go. That is literally everything you do. If you do all of these things and you are qualified for the role, you are going to get moved on to the next round. I could tell you from doing tens of thousands of these that so many candidates, I can tell they just don't do these things. But if you do them, you prepare, you practice, you do your research, and you do the right things, it should give you a better chance than not to succeeding and moving on to that next step. I want to thank you again for taking the time to sit here with me and go through this. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Good luck in your next interview. You've got this.